Welcome to the presentation of the article entitled Analyzing the Metadimensions in TRPGs, Meta-Action, Metacognition, and Metagaming. Presented at the Quinto Coloquio Internacional de Estudios sobre Juegos de Rol. The authors are Cristo León and Dr. James Lipuma, both from the Institute of Technology in Nueva Jersey. Currently, Cristo León is the Director of Research for the College of Science and Liberal Arts for the New Jersey Institute of Technology, where he assists faculty in pursuing their academic research. His research focuses on storytelling, innovation, and social responsibility. Dr. James Lipuma is a faculty member in the Humanities Department at NJIT and is also the Director for the Collaborative for Leadership Education and Assessment Research, CLEAR, at NJIT, where he leads learners, collaborators, and stakeholders through the collaborative change process. We'll start today's presentation with a brief introduction to the article. Over the next slides, we will conceptualize the situation, present a brief report on the systematic literature review, presenting the definition of meta-action, metacognition, and metagaming. Additionally, we will elaborate on the concepts gaming and extra gaming, as well as present some examples of the point of contact. Finally, we will share our conclusions and open the dialogue for Q&As. We will start by conceptualizing the situation. Can you really have a meta-meta? Meta-action, metacognition, and metagaming. The paper discusses the three interconnected ideas of meta-action, metacognition, and metagaming concerning the effective co-creation process and its impact on how participants collectively create and explore fantasy worlds in imaginary cosmos by using a vast system of concepts, rules, and mechanisms that functions as the background or canvas for action and interaction amongst them. Our subject is co-creation of the narrative at the point of contact. The conversation a DM has with a player or players around rolling dice and using a spell, a skill, or a feat are part of the TRPG's in-game experience. We call this moment the point of contact, in the same way that giving a general description of the landscape or what the character sees is not a dialogue, but they are an integral part of the narrative and therefore a part of the game. This communication includes different perspectives, voices, and reasons. Players without a DM are playing a video game. DM without players is just an oral presentation, actor, director, or presenter. The co-creation of the narrative is a very unique way in which narrative is created that has a broad spectrum of terms due to its ephemeral qualities and subjective nature as the co-creative process itself. We started the exploratory approach by selecting the main categories and subcategories that our expertise identifies as necessary to have this discussion: tabletop role-playing games, interactive narratives, and metacognition. We subdivide them by interactive fantasy games, role-playing games, narrative voices, point of view, writing, teaching, and psychology and education. This is the end of the conceptualizing the situation section. We will now move to the systematic literature review section. In the SLR, we designed 5 research questions that approach the systematic literature review. The authors have designed a methodology called the General Particular Specific GPS model to create the present table. To lead our literature review from the ideas of role-playing storytelling at the top to the discussion on control and responsibility on the collaborative experience at the bottom. By identifying the most relevant stories in the fields of storytelling, knowledge transfer, and TRPGs to create the general level of the table, next we identify the interactive narrative, metacognition, and diegesis as a particular level, followed by the specific level of narrative voices, point of view, co-creation, and effective narrative. Finally, we are at the bottom level of user to identify the role that will benefit from and use this analysis: author, dungeon master, and player. The result of conducting the literature review and finding the answers to the research question proposed allowed us to evaluate our original exploratory approach and adjust the main categories and subcategories to role-playing, narratives, and education psychology. This in turn allowed us to identify current research on the topics, as well as to identify the needed definitions to start the conversation, interviews, and survey with a focus group of dungeon masters to better inform the article. This is the end of the literature review section. We will now move to the development section. Gaming and extra gaming. Going back to the conversations at the point of contact or the gaming experience specific to TRPGs, into the TRPGs, the participants are responsible for making the decisions and actions necessary to complete the co-creation process. This will vary greatly depending upon the level at which the participants assume the roles that can authentically embody the style and persona of PCs, NPCs, and DM. In the TRPGs, the players assume the role of a player character with a specific persona. The role-playing games obligate participants to occupy a liminal role located in the boundaries of persona, player, and person. Depending on the role that is assumed, the point of view, and the narrative, all of this will change. Therefore, it is important to have a clear understanding of the different definitions needed for personas, players, and persons. The authors created a glossary of terms found in the literature review. Here we present the essential definitions founded in Meta Actions as a tool for action rules evaluation by Tutti, the philosophy of metacognition, mental agency and self-awareness by Proust, and the Session Encyclopedia of Educational Research, Measurement and Evaluation by Frey. We also added the levels of metagames by Richard Garfield, metagaming, playing competitive expectations, cheating, trading, and making and breaking video games by Bollock and Lemieux. For the examples at the point of contact, we will discuss now some of these examples. Let us use a traditional Dungeons and Dragons session. Imagine that a DM is describing the following situation to the players. The Dungeon Master says, the enemy managed to escape the castle and will run into the forest unless stopped. Your character does not have any ranged weapons. There is a 20-foot chasm, the yellow bricks, between you and the illithid that you are chasing. What do you want to do? The player character says, I want to draw my sword, jump over the 20-foot obstacle, and give chase to my enemy. In this example, the PC wants to chase after an illithid. To accomplish this, the player character will have to jump 20-foot chasm. The action is jumping. The rules for jumping are the skills rules. The meta action then is the discussion about applying the rules to this action in the given situation. This will open the discussion of either actions or meta actions. For example, the player could ask the dungeon master how wide is the gap, and the DM could also answer something like it's 20 feet or it's three times your height, etc. It also can lead to multiplayer discussions. For example, player character 1 will say, does anyone have a flying spell that I can use? Player character 2 will answer, no, but the barbarian can throw you. Player character 1 will say, will that work? Player character 3 could say, yes, I don't see why it would not. On the other hand, the meta-action discussions will be represented for questions like, what is the bonus that I will receive from a friend tossing me over the chasm? These can be answered by the other players, as they may be familiar with the bonus. A little bit different is the case that the player character asks directly to the dungeon master, what is the difficulty of the jump check? Normally, only DMs can answer that question, as the DM can set a particular difficulty for narrative purposes, or it can simply determine not to make this information public to the player and request that the player just roll the die. A different discussion is necessary if the player asks metacognitive questions. We have selected procedural, analytic, and conceptual as some dimensions of metacognition that are commonly encountered in the TRPGs. Metacognition procedural questions. The player character will say, do I feel that I can make that jump? The dungeon master can answer, yes, you have made that same distance in the past. Metacognition analytic. Player character, how do I use jump? Or how does gravity work in this planet? And for the metacognition conceptual, the question will be, what is an illithid? Finally, the games versus metagaming discussion leads to a continuation and immersion in the game or a stop in the in-game experience. It is important to mention that either DM or PCs can bring or use metagaming. Metagaming not only creates an unpleasant gaming experience, it is also not an action or meta-action, and it only adds more complexity to the metacognition by bringing more concepts to the table. This is the end to the development section. We will now move to the conclusion section. In conclusion, understanding how the different meta dimensions influence the point of contact will assist participant communication. Thanks for your time. Here are the author's contact information. Please feel free to send us an email with any additional questions that you may have.